Good morning, everyone. Here I am walking along the Seine this morning, walking Pinky, there she is. And we're just walking along a part of the Seine which is up north of Nanterre, which is where my girls live, and it's pretty lovely, as you can see. And we're just about to go down that path there. So that's where we're going to go while I have a little chat with you. Whew. I hope everybody enjoyed the It's Not Rocket Science lesson on Monday. It feels really good, actually, to get back into that. It feels super good to get back into it, actually. Me and my whiteboard, I'm just letting these people go past it. They're just coming through with their bikes. It's a very, very popular cycle track. Right, here we go. Yeah, it feels good to get back into It's Not Rocket Science. It feels good to get back into teaching. And that's the bit I love more than anything else. People who know me know that that's the part of me that I have a huge desire to teach people. Also, I have a huge desire to find out why things are going wrong. Now, I suppose when we look back to last November, and we look back to a post, I think it was November, it was either October or November, it was just before I went to Florida, and I look back and reflect, and I put up a post that said diet doesn't cause laminitis, and it caused a massive furore. And I know why it caused a furore, because the world has spent an inordinate amount of time and effort believing that diet is the one single thing that we need to be able to control, and then we will stop those awful catastrophic things happening to horses' feet, such as rotation, penetration, sinking, all of the things we've been told about, which are horribly catastrophic, and we want to fix it, right? So we've had researchers out there, we've had vets living this belief. We've had, oh look, Pinky, that goes down to the water down there. Oh, sorry, there you go. We've had businesses pop up that are invested in trying to teach owners how to control the diet. Heck, that's what we did back in the day. But I've always known that P3 rotating doesn't happen on its own, independently of a capsule. So you take a capsule, like you see these diagrams, it doesn't change, but P3 loses its attachment to the laminae and somehow it starts to move. And it'll either rotate or it will sink. But it's always really random. Like, they don't all sink, and they don't all rotate, and they don't all necessarily behave the same. And that was always something that confused me, because actually the foot is super predictable, to be fair. The length of time it takes to heal when we do rehabs can differ. You can sort of predict it a little bit, depending on how bad that horse is, depending on the presentation that we see in the feet. But the healing time really does depend on the strength of the horse, how good its immune system is, how strong it is, healthy it is, etc. And there's no doubt about it. If we overfeed ourselves as an organism, we overfeed our pets, our dogs, we overfeed the organism, cats, horses, you are going to cause issues with the metabolism. You can probably hear there's quite a lot of factories and businesses along here that obviously built up because they needed the water. So it can be a bit noisy. But it's really super nice. Look, it's lovely, isn't it? Where was I? So, sorry. Lindsay digress. So my question was not what causes P3 to rotate. I knew that there's no such thing as independent rotation. The world's believed that But then nobody's ever gone out and done lengthy longitudinal research or studies observing what happens when horses go through a rehab, when they go from rotated back to a normal capsule. When you do that enough, you realise that actually it's the capsule that's going out of alignment with P3, because the humans can't see P3 inside, and so they haven't followed the evolution of the foot. They haven't followed nature and what nature's trying to tell them. And frankly, when a foal is born, they only need to go a few weeks before that capsule starts to change. And if you haven't got any landmarks or blueprint to follow, then really you're following what goes on in your head as a hoof care professional, as a vet, as anybody, an owner. And the problem is that if you do that, you're always chasing the capsule and you never really understand anatomical balance. And that's what the It's Not Rocket Science lesson on Monday was all about. So please go and watch that, and you might understand a little bit more about what I'm saying, between the version of what humans think is right, which is the capsule part of it, and what the horse wants and needs, which is the anatomical balance, e.g. how the hoof capsule wraps itself around P3. So the question for me was not P3 is rotating. No, we know that. The question always for me was what causes the stretch? Why is there stretch there? When I was taught, way back in the day, I was taught that the stretch was caused by diet. Everything's caused by diet. And I knew that diet didn't cause P3 to rotate, as I said. But I was taught and believed, because I didn't look at radiographs, I didn't do... Oh, it's just gone for a rat. I took my arm off. There was a little ratty that went past and ran across. Oh. Wildlife. Paris wildlife. What causes the stretch? And the trouble is, if you believe everything is diet related, you kind of stop looking. I stopped looking. Well, I didn't look. I was told not to look at x-rays. I was told not to chase pathology, which is a good mantra. You shouldn't chase the pathology, but you should understand it, recognise it, and try and heal it. And that's a whole different can of worms. But it was the stretch part. I never, ever actually gave myself... I never believed in myself that much, I think. And I never gave myself enough credit. Because there I was, meeting up with owners with horses with rotation, stretch, separation, laminitis. And I would do two things. I would say to them, first and foremost, we've got to change the diet. You've got to make sure that this horse has a better diet, more fibre, more movement. Don't lock the horse up. Keep the horse moving. What, even with all the pain? Yes, because I'm going to help with the trim to take the pressure off P3. So you keep your horse moving, give it a better diet, feed that gut, give the horse safe energy as opposed to unsafe energy, which comes from spiking sugars from the small intestine flooding into the bloodstream, and that's not safe energy. The safe energy comes from the bacteria producing their VFAs, their volatile fatty acids. Anyway, no, don't worry, I'm not going down a chemistry route. So I would do two things. I would say to them, please change the diet. And at the same time, I'd be looking at the hoof going, this has gone way beyond its natural parameters, so I better bring that back. Now, in the early stages, I would take toe off as well. I would rasp away the toe, and in many instances, I would have horses who were not remaining sound and not progressing through the rehab as good as I expected. Some would, but most wouldn't, because I obsessed over the toe just like everybody else. So there were two things going on. One, in my mind, one, change the diet. Three things. One, change the diet. Two, make sure that you bring that horse back, its foot back to a more natural parameter. And three, don't leave the toe on, because that's going to just make everything worse. But actually that horse didn't have a lot of toe anyway. I was just maintaining keeping it off. Now, what I didn't realise back then, and I've come to realise now, through the many rehabs that I've done and that I have documented, is that it wasn't all nonsense, but it was all a bit confused. So I never gave myself enough credit. The reason those horses started getting a healing angle, or the foot was starting to reconnect, was because of my trim. At the end of the day, it was my trim. Mainly the heels. Did I keep on top of them enough on those horses that had very poorly feet? No, I didn't go back enough. In the early days of rehab, perhaps I would, back in the day, and I'm talking sort of 10 years ago and beyond, and before that. But did I actually keep on top of them as well as we do now? No, because I didn't understand the problems with growth rates, etc. And I believe that the reason that horse was growing in a tighter hoof capsule was not my trim. Like I said, I didn't give myself enough credit. I believed that it was mainly the diet change. Now, the diet change was supporting the changes that I was making in the feet. For without a shadow of a doubt, horses actually, in fact, need quite a lot of calories when they're healing. And one of the things we tend to do is we try and starve them from calories. Now, I'm not saying we overfeed them. We shouldn't do that. But actually, they need far more than you think they need when they are in those catastrophic stages, when they're suffering. And yet, unfortunately, what we tend to do is we remove all of that and we think we can support the foot. So it's the other way around. You want to get the foot into its natural parameters, follow those natural parameters, find them, follow them, keep them there as regularly as you can, and support with the diet. Because that's just going to help the immune system, that's just going to help the horse. Not the other way around. People think, fix the diet, support with the feet. Support with the feet, what do I mean? Things like interventions like shoeing, clogs, rockers, gluing on boots, gluing on composite rockers, all kinds of interventions that have come our way to help support the foot while fixing the diet. And part of the fixing of the diet, is drugs as well. How can we calm the metabolism? And yet what we found was support the horse with a good diet, but actually fix the foot. And you don't need shoes, and you don't need rockers, and you don't need clogs, and you don't need resections, and you certainly don't need DDFT tenotomies, etc. You just do the right thing by the anatomical balance. You bring P3 back into balance that's inside a very damaged capsule or a damaged foot. That the foot has been growing out of balance with its internal anatomy, and that's been causing the strain and the stresses, and that's what causes the stretch. Now, there's more to it than that, but that is, unfortunately, the answer that the world doesn't want to hear. So when I put that post out that says diet doesn't cause laminitis, I meant it because it's true. Because it isn't diet that fixes a foot that's in a catastrophic position, e.g. the hoof capsule is not in the same position as P3. The human's version of balance is not the same as the horse's version of anatomical balance, and you can read it when you learn how to do so. Do laminae get inflamed because of diet? That's never been confirmed. People will say, yes, it has. No, it hasn't, because on all of those pieces of research that have been done, they never did the other part of the story, which was follow the hoof capsule. So they believed P3 was rotating and moving, etc. Come on, let's go over here. But that was from memory of what the hoof capsule looked like when they started. Nobody took any photographs. Nobody followed the changes in the hoof capsule that the hoof care practitioner or the owner was making. And so, unfortunately, we were relying on memory. So, when I put that post out, I did mean it. I did mean that diet in itself is so, so important, but it doesn't cause the term, it doesn't cause the presentation that we call laminitis. And that is, you x-ray a foot, the horse is not doing well. Like I said in my rocket science lesson, they start being a little bit footsore. We don't necessarily recognise that, and so before we know it, we start trying to correct the foot or support the foot, thinking that its distortions are happening because of the diet, so we fix the diet. Now, some people will say, well, I fixed the diet and it got better. Yeah, but you can't show me those photographs of the horse's hooves. What was the hoof care professional doing at that point? And for those people who say, I fixed the diet, I brought my horse in, he came off the grass, he got better, what did he get better from? Because there are two sides to this. There is a horse that's getting overwhelmed, their metabolism is getting overwhelmed, they're feeling sick, they're feeling ill, just like you do when you feel ill, you shuffle about. You don't march around confidently, you shuffle about. And the other side is, this isn't a horse that's sick at all, this is a horse that's got horrible hoof capsule imbalance. And I hate to tell you this, guys, but that's what horses are being put to sleep for around the world. They're not being put to sleep because they had a shocking metabolism, which can be helped and helped quite quickly. They're put to sleep because they can't stand up, because when the vet comes along and x-rays, they see P3 in the wrong position and they declare laminitis. So the diagnosis of laminitis, which basically comes from, that looks like a distorted hoof capsule, I x-ray it, I see that P3 is in the wrong position, and then I diagnose laminitis. That's not caused by diet. And that's why I put that post out. Does diet cause inflammation of the laminae? That's yet to be proven. And even if it did, it's easily fixed. But it's because you can fix the diet. But that's not going to cause P3 to rotate. And if we are getting, which is getting a bit noisier, if we are getting a diet, an inflamed laminae, what else are we getting? Because when people say that, I always say to them, what's the next stage? And then they say P3 rotates, or it gets, or the laminae separate, P3 is in the wrong position. No, those two things are not linked. It has never been proven that diet causes inflammation of the laminae. What has been seen in these research papers is that when you overdose horses with enough to not only affect their bodies in certain places, it affects them everywhere. Their gut, they get colic, their heart, they get tachycardia. It's affecting all tissues in their body, but that goes beyond what is natural for a horse. So if the laminae are becoming inflamed, the only way we can prove that is by keeping horses' feet in a very stable condition, always understanding the anatomical balance, and not overfeeding them, but not being crazy about going over the top, particularly with starvation. And then if that horse remains like that and continues to be good and rehabs and is fine, then of course diet had nothing to do with it. And that's what we're seeing everywhere. We may not change the diet, but we sort out the feet, and then we find that the horse rehabs despite the diet. I'm not telling you to go out. Please, people who are out there saying that Lindsay Setchell tells people to go out and put their horses out on grass, I'm not telling you to do that and get your horse all fat. I know the chemistry. I know what happens. But I am telling you that if your horse is being diagnosed with laminitis and you've x-rayed it and you can see that, or you haven't, but you can see stretch, or that you can see P3 is not in the right position in relation to the capsule, it's not P3 that's the problem, it's the capsule, and that's the bit that needs fixing. Anyway, that was my thought for the day. I've gone on for 20 minutes. I hope that helps. Me and Pinky are gonna, oh, she's not very good, Pinky. Me and Pinky are gonna carry on our walk. We're still going along this path. Then I'm gonna get home, and then I've got work to do. So, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye, all the best.